I'm going to call the February 15, 2023 Planning Commission meeting to order. Heather, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Hamilton? Mr. Kale?
Here.
Mr. Tarley?
Here.
Mr. Boswell?
Here.
Mr. Granger?
Here.
Mr. Sokolowski? Ms. Lee? Here.
Okay, thank you. Our first agenda item, approval of minutes. We have a regular meeting from the 18th, and we have a CIP work session. There were some amendments to the 25th work session minutes. Are there any other amendments to be made to either set of minutes? Okay, I'm going to do this in two separate motions because we had different attendance at both of those. Is there a motion to approve the January 18, 2023 minutes as submitted?
I so move.
Second.
Mr. Kale?
Aye.
Mr. Tarley?
Aye.
Mr. Boswell?
Aye.
Mr. Granger?
Aye.
Ms. Liebel?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the January 25 minutes as amended?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Kale?
Aye.
Mr. Tarley?
Aye.
Mr. Boswell?
Aye.
Mr. Granger?
Abstain?
Ms. Liebel?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. We move on to the open forum. This is an opportunity for anyone to come forward and address the commission on any matters that are not on the agenda. Agenda items will have their own separate opportunity for an open forum. If anyone would like to come forward, now is the time. Anyone from the ARB want to bend our ear? I guess not. So I will go ahead and close the open forum. We'll move ahead to we have one consent agenda item today, SPR 22-011. Per our bylaws, consent agenda items don't have a presentation or a discussion unless a commissioner wants to remove the item from the consent agenda. Is there any interest in removing it? Okay. Is there then a motion to approve SPR 22-011 as submitted?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Kale?
Aye.
Mr. Tarley?
Aye.
Mr. Boswell?
Aye.
Mr. Granger?
Aye.
Ms. Liebel?
Aye.
Okay, we move on to the public hearings. PCR, as you see on the agenda, PCR 23-002 is being tabled without discussion. I think we'll see that at an upcoming meeting at some point. That gets us to PCR 22-007 and Ms. Griffin.
Yes, hi, good afternoon. Chairman Boswell and all members of the Planning Commission. Today, before you is PCR 22007. This is a request of Timmons Group on the behalf of Riverside Health Systems for a site plan to construct Greenwood Village. This is a community within the Quarterpath subdivision. It's 153 total units containing 95 townhomes and 5 condominium buildings. I'll quickly go through just a few specific things about the process. First, this was requested as a slope waiver back in October 14th of 2021. The City Council approved encroachment upon 1.5 acres of slopes in excess of 30%, and this again was approved on October the 14th in 2021. Staff has reviewed the site plan. The site plan came to the office in February of 2022. It was approved in December of 2022, and then it went to the Site Plan Review Committee in January of 2023. Several different features have been reviewed on this particular site plan: topography, landscaping, erosion and settlement controls, streets, parking, drainage, utilities, and that is common, but just wanted to go over a few specifics about this particular property. It is the site B12, which you see here. This just gives you this is actually the site plan, and it shows you here the outline of the property. You see the 5 condominium buildings to the rear, and then the townhouses off of North Ridge Street. These are rear garages. They are 2 and 3 bedroom townhouses, and again, there's 95 townhomes that will be built. Sidewalks sidewalks are required in all townhouse subdivisions. So here on this slide, you do see that all of the townhouses do have sidewalks that are required. There's also going to be landscaping, and there's a requirement of open space that all staff has reviewed. Staff that reviews all of the site plans are the planning office, engineering office, the building official, police, and fire all review the site plan. This gives you just an overview of the Quarterpath Master Plan. If you remember, several months ago, they came and they requested that you provide them with approval for their subdivision of the 8 parcels. So here you have the Greenwood Village at the top, below the Village Green and North and Attain, the apartments. Riverside Hospital and Village Green and North and Attain are already built. Greenwood Village here is proposed. The Peninsula Dermatologist, as you see, is where that will go, and you just had that on your consent agenda. The Kerbor, that is coming before you. RLC will be coming before you, and then you see parcels B6 and parcels B10 are in future development, and we don't know what will come on those properties at this point. This gives a breakdown of the future build-out for the residential. Quarterpath was approved with proffers that allowed the construction of no more than 895 residential units. The additional units in B7, which was what you approved for the Kerbor SOAP waiver at your last meeting, and today we're looking at Greenwood Village, the 96 units proposed, and then the 56 units for condominiums. Proposal was a total of 238 that have been proposed for this year. Completed or under construction are 510, and that leaves 147 more units that can be constructed for residential at Quarterpath. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Again, this is for approval of the site plan, and the reason why we're having a public hearing is because it was a part of a SUP, the special use permit for the SOAP waiver that was approved last year.
Questions for Ms. Griffin? Okay, we'll go ahead and open the public forum. Would anyone from Quarterpath like to add to what Ms. Griffin has just presented to us?
Good afternoon. I'm Tracy Dowling. I'm the System Director for Real Estate Services for Riverside Health System. I'm here representing Quarterpath today. My address is 10113 Squires Way in Toano, Virginia. Also with us today, or also with me, is one of our development consultants, Jason Vickers-Smith with WVS Kinnery Willowwood, and we'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have after I give a few comments. As Ms. Griffin mentioned in her report, we have been working with city planners and various departments for a year now, revising and tweaking the layout and details of the infrastructure for this Greenwood phase, which I think has resulted in a much, much better plan than we might have even envisioned going into this process. Similar to the completed section, the townhomes in Greenwood will be members of the Residential Sub-Association No. 1 of Quarterpath and participate in the recently completed clubhouse and pool amenity. H.H. Hunt Homes will be the developer of these units, as they were with the completed townhomes that are there now. They have provided a high-quality product that has been well received in the community. We invited current residents of the community to hear an overview of the plan and address their questions on the evening of February 6th. We had a very good turnout. Approximately 30 residents attended, and the most frequent questions and comments and our responses included the following. First of all, how will the new homes on the Northridge side of Northridge Street appear to the already existing ones on the south side of Northridge? A very good question when those are going to be your neighbors. Working with the topography of this section, the majority of these homes will be constructed with a garage on the lower level, what we're calling kind of a tuck under, which would be below grade, that will be accessed from the alley, as Ms. Griffin mentioned, from the rear, that runs parallel to Northridge Street. The 2 levels above the garage will be at grade with a front door and porch that will face Northridge Street. This will continue the existing appearance of the streets that already exist in the townhome section. Another question, of course, was about parking and how is that addressed in this next phase. We are providing more parking than required by code for this next phase. 263 parking spaces in total for the townhomes is 23% more than required. Parking on Northridge Street, when it has its final paving, will be in addition to these spaces. What is the timeline for development for this next phase was another frequently asked question. Timing for the completion of the next phase is dependent, of course, on the market. In the first phase of the 121 townhomes, H.H. Hunt had an initial couple of years where they sold 3 to 10 units a year, but then they shot off and were selling 20 plus units a year. So as we did with H.H. Hunt in the first phase, lots will be provided in a schedule that meets the need for inventory to sell. What will happen to the nature trail? That was another big question because the nature trail has been a big hit in the Quarterpath development. The nature trail will, of course, be impacted in some areas of the site work of this next phase. We have planned to adjust the path of the nature trail in those areas. However, unfortunately, during phases of construction, the nature trail will need to be closed for safety reasons. In fact, a portion of it is closed now for the development of the medical office building that's taking place now. There remains a path that goes along the entire length of Battery Boulevard to provide walking opportunities and to access Route 60 and Quarterpath Road to continue for longer distances if you'd like to go for a longer walk. There were some comments regarding green space, and we reminded the group that green space is provided at 20% of the entire development, and we are meeting and exceeding that requirement in the ED district. Finally, the majority of the comments and the questions revolved around construction traffic and the disruption of construction in general. And unfortunately, construction can be disruptive at times, especially in tight areas of attached single-family homes. We are still in the bidding process for the site work, so we will discuss in detail these construction-related concerns with our selected site contractor to develop a plan that provides the least amount of disruption for the residents who are currently there. These were the most discussed items the residents presented and how we addressed those questions and concerns. We're very proud of the design that all have worked on so diligently. Thank you to the city staff and to the professionals that have worked with the Quarterpath team. We are also pleased with the success of Quarterpath and the quality of life available there. We think this next step will complement the vision and will be a great addition to the city of Williamsburg. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to address the commission on PCR 22-007? Now is the time. Yes, sir. If you would please state your name and address for the records.
My name is Tim Coyle, C-O-Y-L-E. I live at 3906 Prospect Street, which is in Quarterpath in the development that's currently built, and what's being discussed is what is going to be added behind us. I speak against the motion. We are not opposed to Riverside and H.H. Hunt building more townhouses and condominiums on the land on the north side of Northridge. Our complaint is about the way they're going about it. H.H. Hunt has said that they want to attract young families to our community. Yet what they say and what they do are totally opposite of each other. All you need to do is look at the 2 condominium buildings that were built on our street, Prospect Street, where they used every single bit of green space possible for these 2 condominium buildings. There was talk originally of one of those 2 sites being dedicated to either parkland, playground, or additional parking, which would have been a very, very nice addition to our family, but instead, H.H. Hunt, I can only assume because they understood that they could maximize their profits by building 2 condominium buildings rather than one, went ahead and did that. And the way they did it, if you look at those 2 condominium buildings, they are practically in the lap of adjoining townhouses. It's horrible the way they did this, and they want to do the same thing in what's proposed in this new section. I would hope that they would take one of those 5 condominiums and instead turn that into parkland and or parking space. Now, Tracy said that they allowed for what's required for parking and beyond. I don't know when those parking regulations were established, but I know near where we live on our end of the street, there's nobody that owns less than 2 vehicles. Once those condominiums on Prospect Street are all occupied, parking for us is going to become horrendous. And it's only going to be worse with what they propose to do on the north side of Northridge. So I would hope that this planning council would take that into consideration. We're being packed in like sardines. And everybody knows that overcrowding eventually leads to crime and lower quality of life in the community, and that's what we are fearful of. We know that Riverside and H.H. Hunt have all the power, all the money. We're little nobodies. But I'm speaking up for the people that live as residents in the community now to prevent this from going forward as planned. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else like to address the commission? No? Anyone from the back row? Okay. I'll go ahead and close the open forum, public hearing part of the meeting. Commissioners, discussion, questions?
I do have a question that it sort of pertains to what the gentleman was talking about. I had the same question about parking spaces, and I realized that it is probably Virginia state code that defines the number of parking spaces. Is that accurate?
No, the city code and the zoning ordinance tells us how many parking spaces are required based on the type of use. So in this particular section, 2 parking spaces are required for each townhouse unit plus 0.2 spaces for guests. This is a total of 214 spaces for the townhomes, and the applicant is providing 263 spaces for the townhomes. Condominiums require 1.25 spaces for each 1-bedroom unit and 1.5 spaces for each 2 to 3 bedroom unit plus 0.25 for each guest. At this point, they are not certain of the bedroom count for the condominiums. So what they did is they estimated 50% of the units would be 1 bedroom and 50% would be 2 or more bedrooms, providing 91 parking spaces for the condominium units, a total of 305 spaces for the entire Greenwood Village subdivision.
And it seems counterintuitive to me, and I realize it's in the zoning ordinance, but it seems counterintuitive to me to have fewer parking spaces for the condominiums on a per bedroom basis or a per theoretical occupant basis. And that's why I was wondering about the genesis of the calculation. It's just a question. I read through the ordinance myself, and I realized that yes, what has been used is in the ordinance, but it seems counterintuitive to have a 2 to 3 bedroom condominium only require fewer than 2 parking spaces. Seems strange to me.
The 1.5.
Yeah.
I'm going to piggyback on that question or statement, if I may. So, because they're not certain of the number of bedrooms and the makeup, and they've made some estimates, does that give them some parameters to work within that they cannot exceed?
When I did the calculation, it still took them over what they would have to be required anywhere you looked at it. So this still gives you a there's not a min or not a max, but this 91 parking spaces actually is over what they would require if they had under the 2 to 3 bedrooms.
91.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you both for those questions, and Ms. Griffin for those responses. Other questions, discussion? Okay, we are, as we said, just voting on the site plan. Everything else pretty much has been voted on, at least by City Council. So is there a motion? Sir.
I'm going to ask one more question, if I may. I assume this is the one with the 30% waiver, and Aaron, Public Works, has reviewed it and given it their approval.
Right, this has gone all the way through City Council.
Yeah, okay.
This is not the same parcel that we were
Okay.
voting on last,
All right, thank you.
I guess it was last time, right? Yes, sir. I think you had about a minute left.
If I could add one other thing, I wonder if it would be possible to approve a portion of what is being proposed today, that being the part where they begin to build initially and then evaluate after that part has been built before the whole plan is approved. So could it be approved in segments rather than the whole thing being approved today, which would give us the opportunity to see what has resulted from what they are proposing to build initially, which might help us to decide better what would be best for the community going forward.
Thank you for that suggestion, sir. I have a feeling if we did that, the city attorney would kill all of us, but we are limited by what's in front of us here. So we're not allowed to approve part, and although it might be nice if we were. So any other questions? Is there a motion?
I'd move to approve PCR number 22-007.
Second.
Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Kale?
Aye.
Mr. Tarley?
Aye.
Mr. Boswell?
Aye.
Mr. Granger?
Aye.
Ms. Liebel?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. That takes us to unfinished business and the Architectural Review Board, which is gathered in our front row here, PCR 23-001. Ms. Griffin, you have this is the same guidelines that we looked at last time, but with an update.
Yes, I'm not going to go back through the presentation. Just to give you an update, at the last meeting, if you remember, I asked that you table making a vote on this because we wanted to take a look at the CP district because we wanted to add historic buildings and to be able to, demolish, to have the ARB review if someone wanted to demolish historic buildings in the Corridor Protection District. We still want to move forward with that. However, what we have learned is that that process is going to take longer than we anticipated, and we don't want to hold up the design review guidelines because it could be months on end. And as you remember, this process started back in February of 2020. So we also have several applications in the office that have been waiting for the guidelines to move forward, and we don't want to have those people wait. So we are asking the Planning Commission today if you had thoughts or a decision that you wanted to make on the guidelines, that you would do so, and we'll move this forward to the City Council March meeting. If you have any questions about that, I'm happy to answer it, and you also have the ARB members here to answer.
What we would be recommending for approval would not include the commercial.
Correct. It would not include the clause that said the ARB had the purview to examine historic structures in the CP district before demolition.
That ordinance will be in front of you the next time you meet.
That'll be forthcoming. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. So I think we had questions, and the ARB was very gracious to be here 2 of our meetings in a row, and we had our questions answered. Are there other questions that may have come up since then? Okay. At long last, is there a motion to recommend approval of PCR 23-001 as submitted?
I'll move that we approve PCR 23-001.
Second.
Mr. Hamilton?
Aye.
Mr. Kale?
Aye.
Mr. Tarley,
Aye.
Mr. Boswell,
Aye.
Mr. Granger,
Aye.
Ms. Liebel.
Aye.
Okay, maybe that'll make your jobs somewhat easier. Let's hope. And I'm glad, as I said last time, I'm glad to see that moving forward. There's a lot of good ideas in that. So we have some old business. Our CIP letter to the city manager. There was one change per Ms. Liebel's excellent suggestion about stormwater management. That has already been. We all got emails about that, and that's already been made on the first page of the CIP letter. The stormwater management. So that's been updated. And thank you, Ms. Liebel, for going into that level of detail, as you always do. We had one other suggestion, and I think it's a good one. Mr. Tarley has suggested adding crosswalks to the first paragraph on safety. Is there any discussion or objection on that? Maybe bus stop and crosswalk improvements, I think we had said, perhaps. So that emphasis is there. Is everyone comfortable with that?
I like crosswalks.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you, Mr. Tarley, for thinking of that. Okay, is there a motion then to approve the CIP letter to the city manager as submitted with that one modification?
I'll move that we approve the CIP letter to the city manager with the modification as discussed.
Second.
Mr. Hamilton,
Aye.
Mr. Kale,
Aye.
Mr. Tarley,
Aye.
Mr. Boswell,
Aye.
Mr. Granger,
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Griffin. I'll be by to sign that when, let me know it's ready. We have our regular information items, and that brings us to our commissioner reports, which we had dispensed with last time around, so I would like to ask if there are any updates from the EDA.
Yeah, I have a few matters that came up for the EDA in the last meeting through their committee work that would be of general interest to vibrancy of the city and the things that we could possibly be seeing. I want to point out again the business roundtable discussions that are held on a monthly basis, the next one being March 28th. The Tourism Development Fund applications are out, and Sokolowski isn't here, so I'll report on the fact that a mural designer and design has been approved for a second one near the Food Lion. So I think those are all positive developments.
Okay, that's super. Thank you very much, Mr. Tarley. I think we're probably not going to have any more updates from from our ARB representative. We've heard a lot about that. Okay, I see that we have no public hearings scheduled for March 15 as of now, so we'll keep our fingers crossed on that. Any other comments? Anything else for the good of the order? Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.